And this thing's coming towards me. And as it got closer, the sun's gone, it's been covered. And all the clouds are billowing. And I'm seeing faces in the clouds. It didn't make any sense to me, but I saw faces in the clouds. And then it's a wall of rain. I'm watching it coming towards me. And by this time, I'm hanging on, you know, with this thing coming through, this energy coming through me. And eventually it hits me. Torrential rain. And everything stopped. And that's when I staggered forward, and my shoulders were agony and all the rest of it. And many other things happened. But when I came back to England after that, as I said earlier, my book was published in the early part of 1991, which is, you know, a matter of a very short time after this experience. And when I look back now, it was like, you know, if you've got a dam and it's holding water back, well, the water is calm, right? Because that's its natural state in that situation, if you like. But when the dam bursts, before a new balance is found after the dam bursts, all hell breaks loose in the water, right, as it's trying to go from one state to another.
Yep.
When I look back, what happened to me on that mound? It was like the waters of my mind bursting. And for 3 months, I didn't know what planet I was on, right? In the middle of this, my book came out. And I went on the biggest chat show, live chat show in Britain at the time. It's called The Wogan Show. In a complete bloody daze about what was happening to me. And it had all been in the national papers that basically I'd gone crazy. And I was sitting in this chair in the chat show, and the audience were laughing within a minute, 2 minutes. And they basically laughed for, I think I must have been on about 16, 17 minutes. And from that moment on, because I was talking about what was happening to me, except I didn't understand what was happening to me. And what that did was trigger the most extraordinary levels of ridicule. And it cleared me out of that fear of what other people think. But I learned so much about human behavior. I remember, because what you're supposed to do when you face that scale of ridicule is run and hide, right?
And it's one of the means that's used to control us all.
Yeah, so what I did is I went on a university speaking tour, and in front of all these students who had not come to listen, they'd come to laugh, right?
My understanding is that what you had is a Kundalini experience. Do you relate to it like that, or do you call it something else?
I don't care.
But have you investigated, or has anyone talked to you about that?
No, I mean, I've talked to people about a Kundalini experience, and maybe it was. See, what I do, I can only talk for myself, is what is. You know, one of the things that was said to me by the psychic, or through the psychic in 1990 when all this started for me, was they're saying you will face enormous opposition, but they will always be there to protect you. Now, I don't know who they are. I've hardly even thought about who they are, because when I leave this genetic spacesuit, I will know who they are. All I do is I go with my intuition. And what happened to me in 1991 with the Great Ridicule was, as life so often does, it gave me my greatest gift, brilliantly disguised as my worst nightmare, because that's what it was at the time, in the experiencing of it. So what actually happened to me is something transformed my sense of perception. And that's good enough for me. I don't really have to know the detail of what happened, but Kundalini experience, it could well have been, yeah.
And in the meantime, it's got something to do with tempering the steel.
Say again?
Tempering the steel.
Tempering the steel, yeah. Because, as I keep coming back to, my personal journey and what I'm doing in terms of communicating information are absolutely at one. I was going to say, what happened to me when I went out on that university speaking tour, I was at a university in Nottingham, and there were 1,000 people there. I would say 950 had come to laugh. And I walked out on the stage, and it was literally the best part of 15 minutes before I could speak, because it was just abuse, ridicule, laughter, plastic beer glasses thrown at the stage. And I just stood there and waited for it to die down, because it had to eventually. And when it did, I said, you think I'm mentally ill, don't you? And you know what it's like. Whoa, yeah. And I said, so what does that say about you? Because you've actually paid to come here to ridicule someone you believe is mentally ill. I tell you what, you could hear a pin drop. And you could hear a pin drop for the rest of the night. And it's to do what I've done in terms of talking about some really bizarre things. And, you know, my name is still only has to be mentioned in a national newspaper in Britain, and it's like complete ridicule, whatever I'm saying.
It's turned around a bit.
A little bit, but not very much. I mean, I stood for election in a parliamentary by-election was it July last year, July 2008, not to get elected. I knew I wouldn't get any votes. I didn't want any votes. I mean, I must be the first parliamentary candidate ever to put out a leaflet to everyone in the constituency saying, I don't want your votes, just your brief attention. Goodness me, I didn't want to get involved in that. But again, it was a great experience, and I learned a lot from it. But the media coverage was, I did a media presentation for the national press, which was about, I don't know, 50 minutes, PowerPoint pictures and stuff, in which I talked about the 5 sense level of it, because anything else, I mean, that blew their bloody minds. Anything else, reptilians, I think, crikey. And what they did is they just went away and just abused me, and abused it, and ridiculed me. And ironically, the one that did the most abuse, one of the things I said was coming, actually about 6 weeks later, was actually the front page story in his own newspaper. I mean, it's bizarre. These people have total cognitive dissonance, so that they can't put these two things together. So it's still there, but it doesn't matter, you know. And you know, we're in a situation where, thanks to the internet, we can bypass these sad people that work with their concrete minds in the mainstream media.
And you don't have to reach everybody, just enough people. It's a 100th monkey thing.
Yeah, I tell you what I feel more and more, you know. I mean, look, I can feel it. When I speak, anyone speaks, it's a vibrational communication. There's silence between you and me. There's silence when you speak to me until my brain's decoded it. What it is, it's vibrational communication. And I feel very strongly that it's not just the people that hear this information. It's the fact that this information's circulating. If you do an interview for a radio station, 100,000 people might listen to it, but that broadcast frequency, carrying that information, is passing through the ether, if you like, and is there to be potentially picked up by people who don't even listen to the radio interview, and it touches them on a vibrational level. And you know,
I think that's right. You're talking about the butterfly effect, in essence.
Yeah,
multiplied. And that's actually a very good way to put it. That it actually, you know, on a subliminal level, because we exist on so many different levels.
Exactly.
That it's like waves. It's actually, it's hitting them. And, you know, there's a line that I've been quoting lately that says, you know, we learn by osmosis just as much as by, you know, word. It actually permeates just by osmosis.
Yeah.
Into our skin, into our brain.
Exactly.
We're receivers.
Exactly. We're receiver transmitters, that's what we are. But people think that the only form of communication is voice to ear. I'll tell you a funny story. In 2003, I was in the rainforest of Brazil, and I took this ayahuasca psychoactive drug. It's the only time I've ever taken a psychoactive drug. Glad I did, though. It was fantastic. I mean, a lot of people have bad experience, but this female voice talked to me as loud as mine is now for 5 hours about how reality, physical reality, is an illusion.